All right, so here we are on a very cold Sunday. It's 23 degrees outside here in Oklahoma. And I'm going to talk about UFC 235 a little bit. John Jones and Anthony Smith's fight. Now, John Jones is probably the greatest 205 fighter ever. I will give you that one. But from the headlines this morning, you would think that he just came out and just massacred Anthony Smith. And he did win. He did win every round, I would say. But because the phrase did come up, the greatest of all time. The greatest of all time. John Jones, the greatest of all time. It's a phrase they seem to use a lot in UFC now. Now, for the greatest of all time, that actually wasn't a very good fight then. Because he should have come out and just massacred Anthony Smith. Probably put him out at least in the second round. At the latest, the third. But he didn't. Anthony Smith was able to hang in there. And even though the last round or so, it was mostly just him trying to hang on and get a victory. Or not a victory, but just to survive the fight. I respect that. Because you are in there with probably the greatest 205 fighter ever to live. Light heavyweight. But, so that's my kind of take on that is the UFC and their announcers use the greatest of all time way too much for almost every fight anymore. How can John Jones be the greatest of all time if George St. Pierre is the greatest of all time, if Daniel Cormier is the greatest of all time, if Conor McGregor is the greatest of all time, and I do remember them saying that Ronda Rousey was the greatest of all time. They didn't qualify it by saying she's the greatest female fighter of all time. They were calling her the greatest of all time. So how can John Jones be the greatest if those four people are the greatest of all time? And see, the most important part of that phrase is of all time. You can be a great fighter, but that doesn't make you the greatest of all time. And I will give you that John Jones is a great fighter. And the only person I would argue at 205 was better, and that's because I'm from Oklahoma and he went to Oklahoma State, is Randy Couture, right? But, Randy Couture isn't even mentioned by the UFC anymore. So if John Jones gets on the wrong side of them and all that kind of stuff, or Conor McGregor gets on the wrong side of them, or any of these guys that they call the greatest, I could see their names disappearing and never being mentioned in that conversation again, just like Randy Couture's name was never mentioned anymore. Ben Askren's fight was a little disappointing. I do believe they just stopped it a little, not just a little too quick, but too quick. But, he came out, the Olympic level wrestler gets WWE body slammed by Robbie Lawyer, which was actually kind of poetic. But then, but he still won. It's not like this is the first controversial stoppage that the UFC's had in the last 6 months. Last year, they've had multiples in the last couple of months, a couple of big fights they've done. Tyrone Woodley actually did look flat. I can't say his last name. I'm sorry. I apologize. And the only name I remember him being referred to is by Ben Askren, and he was called Marty. I can't even remember say his last name, but he is now the new, welterweight champion. Which is congratulations. You deserved it. You outfought Tyrone Woodley. You out wrestled Tyrone Woodley. You outstruck him. You beat him on almost every level. And congratulations. And that would be the last of my thoughts on the UFC's fights last night. But thank you for watching, and you guys have a good day.